All right, lads, welcome back to another episode of Who's Got the Ball. Myself and Shane here once again. What's the crack, Shane?
Not a whole lot, just living, watching Liverpool win every single game they come up against is really, really fun to watch. And United finally won a game last weekend as well. And there's something big happening this weekend that I don't know if people will know about it. I'm sure they do, in all fairness, but the NFL comes to Ireland.
Yeah, I'm absolutely buzzing. I'm going to that game, Steelers and Vikings. We're going to obviously have a good breakdown of it in this episode, but it's going to be amazing just to have it here. Hopefully, it continues for a long time into the future. But um, yeah, really buzzing for that. We're going to go into that in detail, as I already mentioned. Looking at our full slate, then, what we talked about today. We start off with a little breakdown of the two New York teams and how they've had a bad start to the
Psychly, a
season.
psychology session for the two of
Yeah,
us.
exactly. We're two. I'm a Giants fan. Shane is a Jets fan. So we talk about where they've gone wrong and what they can do basically to turn this around in New York. And then moving on from that, then as I mentioned, we went in depth in the NFL Dublin game. We gave a preview of that, what we thought was going to happen, and some of the key points to look out for, and some of the key players as well that we're looking forward to watching. Then after that, we moved on to football. We talked about the Premier League. We talked about some negative tactics that have been prevalent recently that we've been quite annoyed about and why they're annoying and why they need to be cut out because a lot of the teams don't need to do those things. Then we talked about a performance of last weekend, which is Brighton and Spurs. We were really impressed with that game on both sides, so we talked about that and we previewed Newcastle and Arsenal and how that's going to go this weekend and gave our score prediction. Back on to Gan Seans then, where we pick our three underdogs for the week. We give an update on the score from last week, and we give three more picks each for this week. NBA previews continue. We've got the Nuggets, we've got the Jazz, and we've got the Clippers. Three teams, one team really pushing for a championship, another just trying not to bottom out, and then another that are dealing with an off the court crisis. And then lastly, we have the power rankings. Update on that from last week, so you need to stay tuned to see if Shane managed to put the Eagles back in there once again. But hope you enjoyed this episode. Action packed as always, and let's get straight into it. All right, so where else would we start this week? Only the NFL, considering it's coming to Ireland this Sunday. But before we get into that game, we're going to talk about the New York teams and how they've struggled. It's only fitting considering we're fans of each. I'm a Giants fan and Shane is a Jets fan. So we're going to talk about what is going on, honestly, and where do we go from here. I'm going to start before I actually get into this to say that I'm more optimistic about the Jets than the Giants, but we'll start with the Giants. I think bringing in Jackson Dart to start would be good because at least it'll give a bit of hope for the future. Even if he's not like a world beater or anything like that, it'll
Hmm.
still at least provide some kind of positivity around the team because Russell Wilson, I think I said, despite how he played in the Dallas game, the first thing I said is that's just after buying him another starter, another game as a starter. And then he showed back to his usual self. Any semi decent defensive team was quite easily able to take away that deep ball. And I just hope to God that Brian Daywell is able to come up with some kind of better play calling than what he was calling for Russell because it seems like that was aimed at him, but like you never actually know until you see somebody else playing. It could be a fact that that's the best he could come up with, full stop. Now we've seen in previous years he's done
Yeah,
well.
which is not
Not
very good.
Yeah, not very good at all. So you would hope that he goes back to kind of previous ideas and draws up nicer things for Dart, which he'll allow him to do a lot more in the first place. So hopefully the play calling changes because I think that will be massive. And Dart brings another kind of opportunity to play in a different way than Wilson does.
Yeah, I have another two positives. Well, a positive and a half because you mentioned one. I think Wilson being dropped is definitely positive. I just don't see like there was no way you could continue with him after he was going so well, and then his two interceptions against Dallas, and then one interception again on Sunday. It was just horrific. Like, and he's just not doing anyone any favors. He looks so what's the word I'm looking for? He looks nervous in the pocket, and I don't know why he would be because you said the O line is quite good, so like it should
Well,
be.
it's poor until last week, and Andrew Thomas came back, and it looked good then. But
Yeah,
like, yeah, but he's running into pressure more than anything. Like he's
yeah,
not
exactly. Yeah.
letting.
And like he's a veteran, like the literal. He's probably one of the only few people left who's older than me in the league, I think. So it's kind of like just getting to that point. Like, so I think bringing in Jackson Dart is definitely definitely a positive. And also Scatabo at the weekend looked really,
Mm,
really good. And the touch he had, I thought he was excellent. Um, just fearless, which is like Joe. I know he's a rookie and it's kind of what you expect from rookies, but he seemed extra fearless, just taking everything he could for good yardage, and he was really, really good at the weekend. So there is definitely something to kind of cling on to with Jackson Dart and Scatabo if they both start this weekend coming as well.
yeah.
But it's the defensive side of things I just cannot get my head around.
No,
The chopping and changing and the rotations. I was looking at it last night. I signed up for a website called Pro Football, I think it is.
pro football
Fancypros.com.
reference. Oh, fantasy
I
pros.
know
Yeah.
Fancy Pros. And just I literally signed up to look at the snap count for the three. So Thibodeau, Carter, and Holland, they've all played less than 70% of the snaps across the three games.
Okay.
Now, this
Javon
is my
Holland
first
as
time
well
looking at that.
included. He
Yeah,
played
Javon
less than.
Holland as well, yeah.
That's
Has played
strange.
less. The three of them have played less than 70% of the snaps across three games. And there's
Hmm.
just too much chopping and changing for anyone to kind of get a grip of each other, understand each other, especially Abdul Carter, new into the league. He needs to just be in there and kind of fighting fire with fire, really. But now I didn't really go through all the other teams and see what are the Vikings doing with their starters. I know I looked at Will Campbell is only on 56% for the Jets as well, so it could be something that's done with rookies. I don't know. I've never really looked this up before, but I just think when you have those three and they're all so good, you should be just putting them in there as much as you can and just letting them just go to town.
Yeah.
Absolutely go to town on these other teams.
Well, I'm just of the opinion that the defensive coordinator is awful, and like he's going to hold back this team for a number of reasons. So one of the things I had highlighted was the utilization of the talent. And I think Carter, however much he's being used, okay, maybe it's because he's a rookie. Holland is only new to the team, so maybe that's why. Thibodeau is having a great season. He should be utilized to the max that he can. And the fact that when he's on the field, a lot of time you see Carter is literally playing like off ball linebacker. He's not actually coming off the edge. He's not going like in the center of the line. I think if you literally matched him up against a center and you also had Dexter Lawrence there who's getting double teamed, then that's a recipe for success. But they're not doing that. They're constantly moving things around, but not in a positive way. They're not going back to things that are working. And then they put way too much pressure on they're putting way too much pressure on the secondary because it's not that good. Adebo is new. I like Drew Phillips, but he's young. And outside of that, I'm not too sure what to expect. Tyler Newbin looked really bad this year so far at safety, but they're asking him to play cover one. So you just have one guy deep, and then you're lining up man to man. And sometimes, like, Adebo is literally being told to sit miles off, and he's most of the time he's the guy who's on the opposing team's best wide receiver, and that doesn't suit him at all. So I just think everything he's using just doesn't fit the system or fit the players, should I say. The system that he has does not fit the players that are there. I think they should maybe drop two, play cover two, play deeper and more conservative in the DB line, but then in the DB position, but then push harder on the line with less up front. Like they're putting lots of people up front, but they're not getting home because of the way he's changing things around. Just use better tactics because it's clearly not working. We saw that against Dallas, how you can get torched by somebody who has a decent arm. And
Mm,
then in the game against the Chiefs and week one as well, the defense wasn't that bad, but it was like bend, don't break. And this team shouldn't really be that. It could be an explosive defense if they wanted it to be. So
yeah.
it's
Like
just very
Joe,
negative.
anyone can lose to the Chiefs the same way. Like the Bills came and absolutely destroyed the Jets, and so
Yeah.
it's kind of expected. It's the same with the Chiefs. The Chiefs can blow up anyone, but that Dallas game, you didn't lose that Dallas game because of the defense. I know they conceded a lot of points, but it was down to Russell Wilson's really, really ridiculous throw that caused the interception that led to
Yeah.
that
I
game
would
being
argue that
lost.
like in general, Wilson played well that game. I wouldn't put that one on him until the overtime. Then he threw the ball backwards and threw an interception. But in regular game time, the defense did cost the team because right at the end, when Dallas needed to get a field goal, they were given 10 yards to each of their receivers, and Aubrey can kick from half field, so they gave them two easy completions. So I think they cost them in that game, but yeah, in a sense, I would agree. Overall, Wilson has cost them.
What do you think is like what if you were in charge there? You're getting rid of the defensive coordinator
Oh,
off the rip anyway, straight away.
he's gone. He should have been gone in the off season. Like the owner did not even like after the end of the season, he was saying how bad the defense was, John Mara, and pointing specifically to how he doesn't like watching the team get run up and down the field. And he didn't get rid of him, so it's kind of your own fault at that point. If you're not going to step in, or if the GM can't read it, then I don't know what to
Hmm.
say other than he needs to be fired.
Yeah, like there's only so much the players can do as well, especially when like if he's just not good enough, then there's really very little that can be done about it. Like because unless they sack him, it's just going to be the same
And they have so
constant thing
much
on a
talent
loop
there.
on a loop. Yeah, the signs of madness is doing the same thing over and over again, and that's what the Giants are going to continue doing while they have this fella in charge. So
Yeah,
I think until they get rid of him, then there isn't really going to be much of a change, which is
yeah.
sad to say. Who do
I
you
think
have
they're
this weekend? I forgot to look it up.
Chargers. They're going to get waxed by the Chargers this weekend. So I think bringing in Dart, I think there's the right thing to do, regardless of if, say, the week after they're playing the Saints. I would rather him be ready after playing another game to go and take on the Saints and hopefully get a win, and then go into the rest of the season looking to pick up 4 or 5 more wins because I don't think they're going to get too far with how far bad the schedule is. But I think
Yeah,
bringing them in now, even though they will lose on the weekend, is still the right thing to do. But um, I think we've spent enough time on the Giants. Let's look at the Jets. What is your feeling on them?
I just, I still like I said in the hot takes after week one that the Jets might actually be good, and I
Mm.
still don't think I'm too far wrong with it. Um, week one, just they do something stupid every time that ends up costing them. Week one, it was the fumble after just conceding a touchdown to give them another easy touchdown. Could never come back from that. Week three, they blocked down the field goal, then
Mm.
let Baker Mayfield run off a 33-yard run off the back in a non-designed quarterback sneak or whatever it's the quarterback run. Just get him into field goal range and just stupid things like that always cost them. They could very easily be 2-1 if it wasn't
Yeah,
for those kind of mistakes. Yeah, the Bills are going to come and they're going to walk all over many teams in this league. And I know I backed them to beat them, but that was more out of hope than expectation, really. I was kind of struggling for something to pick for Gan Chance, but just like if you could just cut out the stupid mistakes, there really is a season there to be had for the Jets. There's a winning season there to be had if they can just, just switch on. The amount of penalties in the first quarter of that game against Tampa was mental. I know it was mostly Tampa, but even the ones the Jets were giving up were at stupid times. Like it was like giving up a holding call near on the 10-yard line when they're on third and 18 or something. It's just so silly.
so
It's
silly.
just things you shouldn't do. And it's just things that just need to be cut out of the game because there's so much talent there. The offense has so much talent. Garrett Wilson
Mm.
has looked like an actual good player again. He's 21 catches on the season, 10 catches last Sunday, two touchdowns, 229 yards. They still don't really have a second backup to him. So Taylor had 4 catches this weekend, but like Joe was Lazard and Reynolds both had 2 catches each then after that.
Mm.
And they're not really spreading it out very well. It's just the defense needs to be better because the offense have put it up in the 2 games. And then it's just the stupidness on defense that's cost them. Well, special teams as well. Like Gibson was dropped for doing that, and then you sign him up, which says a whole lot about the
Onto
way
the
you're
practice
going as well.
squad.
I think, but
Yeah.
I'm really not as down on the Jets as I thought I'd be. They just need to do something, and they need to start by winning this game, and then they have the Cowboys after. And if you can get back to 2 and 3, if you can win those two, you're in a really, really good spot then.
Yeah, I think it's a long stretch to get to a winning season after starting 0-3. I do
Yeah,
think they could
absolutely.
still have a 7 or 8 win season, but I noted as well the same thing as you that they could easily be 2-1 if they just took care of business. Now, I would say, more likely to be fair is 1-2 because that Bucks game, they fought hard, they came back, but they didn't really deserve
They
to win
were
it.
way down.
Whereas
Yeah.
against the
Mm.
Steelers, they did deserve to win. And I think looking at how they played against the Steelers in general, they had 394 total offensive yards versus the Steelers 271. So they did kind of put the sword to them, and they just couldn't. So Yeah, that's kind of frustrating as a fan, obviously for you. But I would take the positives, and I think you are. But also the fact that Tyrod Taylor kind of looks more solid than Fields. I know we saw Fields go mad on the Steelers week one, but that Steelers defense is tragic. It's after giving up so
Mm,
many yards, so many points to teams that haven't been amazing, and you wouldn't expect them to at least give up that much. And then when you brought in Tyrod, I know week two it's the Bills, but the Bills defense isn't world beaters, and Justin Fields looked horrendous in that game until he got knocked out of it.
mm.
11 passing attempts, only three completions for 27 yards. Compare that to then Tyrod coming in last week, 197 yards, two touchdowns, one interception, 48 rushing yards in his first full start for the team. He's solid. He's like a floor raiser, but he won't have as high a ceiling as Fields, but he will, I think, help you win games. So I don't know what the situation is around Fields when he's due to come back, but I do think that even if he does play, he should beat the Pats. But if it's Tyrod, I would say he will definitely win it because I don't really like the Pats team, and I think it's a big chance to turn it
Just
around
the,
against
the,
the
the
big
Dolphins.
Lombardi. It's the Dolphins this weekend. Oh, sorry. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but even still,
Yeah,
your point stands that whoever if they should start me a quarterback, they should be beating the Dolphins really with how bad they have been this season. The thing I really liked about Tyrod was he gets the ball out so quickly.
mm,
Whereas Fields kind of jumps around the pocket for a bit. He was like, "Hey, I'm going to Wilson. I don't care where Wilson is. I'm finding him," and just found him. And that was the big difference. That's why Wilson did have the 10 catches at the weekend because Tyrod just trusted him. If I put it
mhm,
up for him, he's going to catch us. Whereas Justin Fields seems to be more kind of tentative about airing it out. He wants to either run himself or just hand it off to
yeah,
Brees Hall. The massive difference. Brees Hall didn't do that much running at all the weekend just gone.
yeah. That is the
Um,
negative
he was
because if
still our leading
you have
runner,
no
which
Fields, it makes Hall kind of
yeah,
less of a weapon because they're expecting if it's going to be
yeah,
a run,
he
it's
only
going to
had
be Hall.
20. Yeah, he only had 21 yards at the weekend. So, like 21 yards rushing. So, like that does show that they ripped up the playbook for this one because week one he was getting handoffs a lot from Fields and was ripping off big yards. But they just need to be able to mix it up, trust everyone they have, and just for the defense not to do something silly and just block all avenues and just get wins on the board because there's
Mm,
definitely wins there for him. Um, Yeah, I'm more frustrated than upset with him because I can see the vision. I think Aaron Glenn has been brilliant since he came in. In general, he looks like he has the makings of a really good coach. So we'll have to just work from here. But yeah, I'm really not that down on him, thankfully.
yeah, but even with the Hall thing, I think if it is Tyrod, you will see a difference there where Hall will find it more difficult to get going, and he will have a similar
Yeah,
season, I think, to last year because he couldn't really run with Rodgers. They didn't work because the defense knew that nobody else was going to run. He doesn't look like, to be honest, a
yeah,
great running back. He needs someone who can run the ball as a quarterback to help him out. So I would be a bit wary of him if Tyrod stays. But again, I'd prefer Tyrod to Fields maybe to get some wins on the board. But yeah, I think you have a good
yeah. I
chance
think Brees
this
Hall
weekend.
has. Yeah, I think Brees Hall has fallen off from what everyone expected he was going to be, and I think downgrading him to a running back two and bringing in someone like an explosive player. Like look at Bucky Irving, like he gets off the line, he's just lightning. He just makes people miss tackles. We don't have that in Brees Hall anymore. We had it in year one. That injury just really does seem to have derailed him a good bit. If we had someone, I can't even think of someone who came out this year. Maybe like, geez, what Pascalabo did at the weekend would be unbelievable for the Jets, even if he could keep that
Mm,
up consistently. But they just seem so set on making Brees Hall this wide receiver one who's going to get 15 touchdowns in a year and bring us to victory. And I just don't think he has it in him anymore,
yeah, I
which is
don't think
sad
he's a
because
good enough
I
running
really
back.
like him. So I think bringing in a running back next year's draft is going to be massive, or potentially trading for one. I don't know if you can at this stage, but
Yeah, I think
if they
so.
are going to try and run it with him and Fields, then it needs to be someone better than him to complement Fields rather than Fields trying to give him the ball, just give him touches when they don't really trust him.
Yeah, you can see even though like players that come available at the end of seasons, like how the Vikings got Jordan Mason, like it's still possible at the end of this year that you could
Yeah,
pick up somebody who's in the league. It might not even have to be a draft, but I think we've spoken about Rodgers. Now there's a mention of Jordan Mason. We spoke about the Steelers playing the Jets. We basically touched on the two teams in passing, but let's move on to the NFL Dublin game preview, which is the Steelers versus the Vikings. Steelers are the designated home team. I will be in attendance. I cannot wait for this game. Just it's come around so quickly. It seemed like it was so far away, and then the season
Yeah.
starts, and all of a sudden you're into week four. So, yeah, what do you think? What's your thoughts on how this game is going to go?
After what the Vikings did at the weekend, I think it's really hard to look past them against what I think is a pretty poor Steelers team.
Mhm.
They haven't been terrible by any stretch, but they were absolutely battered by the Hawks. They were lucky to get over the line against the Jets and the Pats even. So like they've won games that they should have lost to the Jets. Probably could should have went to overtime with the Pats, and who knows from there. So they're another team that could very easily be 0-3 if
Mhm.
things went against them the way the things had gone against our two teams. But they're coming into it 2-1 like the Vikings are. I just really find it hard to look past the Vikings with the offense players they have. Jefferson, Mason, Hockaday. Like they're
Hockenson.
three really good players off this.
Hockenson.
Hawkinson, sorry. I don't know where Hockaday came from. God. I'm trying to read it behind the phone screen and I could only see hockey.
Hockenson.
But anyway, yeah, so the three of them alone are just, they're monsters. And then you have the
Yeah.
defense who seem to be in top form after last weekend. So I
I'm
find it
pretty
hard to
sure
look past
Jordan
the
Addison is
Vikings.
back this weekend too.
Yeah, he is
So
actually, yeah.
yeah, so that's another massive one too. But I think I fully agree with you. I can't see the Steelers winning this game, despite all the Steelers fans that are already in Ireland and that have travelled over. I just think they're very bad. This is going to be a losing season for Mike Tomlin.
Mm,
But I already mentioned how it went down against the Jets. Jets had 394 yards to the Steelers 271. Against the Seahawks, the Seahawks had 395 and the Steelers had 267. And then against the Pats, the Steelers only had 203 total yards and the Pats had 369. So the Jets and the Pats beat themselves in those two games, and then the
yeah.
Seahawks destroyed them because they were able to take care of the ball. The Vikings will also take care of the ball. Now,
Mm, mm,
both teams won on the weekend because the opponents they played had a lot of turnovers, but the difference was despite all the turnovers of the Pats, the Steelers still almost threw it away. Whereas the Vikings, you give them that many turnovers, they're going to win games so easily. Um,
mm.
they're 2.5 point favorites. Personally, I think the Vikings defense is way better than the Steelers one. I don't think they'll go over 300 yards this time. The Steelers, they haven't done it this season. They won't do it against this Vikings defense. You look at what they did. Like Isaiah Rodgers is one thing, two forced fumbles, one interception, and he
Yeah,
returned an interception for a TD and one of the forced fumbles for a TD. An unbelievable game. But Harrison Smith is what unlocked that. He was injured first two games. He's the beating heart of the defense, playing at safety, 36 years of age. He doesn't show up on the stats. He didn't have tackles. He didn't have any forced fumbles. He didn't have sacks. He didn't have interceptions. But he is everything this defense needs. He's the one who sets everything up, organizes everything, covers people so tightly, knows where to go. I just can't wait to watch him, and I think he's going to put Aaron Rodgers into a whole world of pain. So I'm only thing is I personally am in a situation where I'm similar to what I said about the Jets, where Tyrod Taylor is a is a floor raiser. Carson Wentz is also a floor raiser. JJ McCarthy
yeah,
looked really bad in his first two games. He had one good quarter out of the first two games. Carson Wentz did the job for them last week, and I think he'll do another job for them this weekend. I think with him starting, they'll win by more than 7 points. And Jordan Mason looked immense on the weekend. He's a big thing that now he's going to be hopefully their starter over Aaron Jones for the
yeah.
future. I think by the when he gets unlocked, he's going to be unbelievable, and I can see him going for over 100 yards again.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I wrote down here as well that Wentz has had no issue stepping in there at all, and he does look like a better fit for that than JJ McCarthy did across the first two games.
Yeah,
Also, like Mason showed flash of his brilliance last year, and he's just kept it up this year. And they keep him as their running back one and keep the confidence in him, then he'll have more 100-yard games than he has 50-yard games, I think.
yeah,
So I think he's really, really good. Obviously, Jefferson is just a monster as well.
yeah.
Like, just what a player in general. Like, his throw anything up, he'll bring it down. So outside of really DK Metcalf, I don't know what the Steelers can do to hurt him. Johnny Smith isn't really.
No,
He's
Rogers
grand.
doesn't
Like
seem to want to
he's
go to him.
no, not at all. So which I don't understand because he came over in the trade.
Yeah. They've been drawing things
So
up
like
for him
so
as well,
did
like designed runs and
yeah,
everything, designed
and
routes, and they're just not going to.
Rogers just has no interest, which is strange because like Rogers should be looking for his biggest targets to try and get anything going because they haven't really gotten going. So I agree with you. It'll be Vikings by more than 7, and I wouldn't surprise me if it was double digits.
Yeah, just looking at Rogers' first three games for you here, like 65% completion, 586 yards, 7 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. On the surface, it looks fine, but you know,
Mm.
he threw 2 interceptions against the Seahawks in a game they got blown out in. He looked really good against the Jets, but he had a point to prove there. And then it's just kind of all been downhill since then. 139 yards total last weekend. That's really bad. So
Horrific, horrific.
yeah, I don't know. It would be great to see him like before he retires, see him in the flesh playing. But we're not getting an elite Aaron Rodgers. We're getting a probably bottom 12 level quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah,
So it'd
he's
still be
one of
nice to
those
see.
people. Yeah, he's one of these people. When Carragher said, "Leave the football before the football leaves you," he should have retired
He's
either
well left for
before
now.
this season. Yeah, he should have retired before this season or before the season. That's his second year with the Jets because
Yeah, he's going
he's
to be
kind of.
42 this
I'm not going to.
season.
Yeah, like I'm not saying he's tarnishing his legacy, but he's not doing himself any favors with the way he's playing
Yeah,
at the moment. So,
no, I
like,
agree.
and who he thought he was holding out for so long, seeing if any other teams would want him, expecting someone big was going to come in and snap him up and make him a Super Bowl winner again. It's like, bud, just pack it in, please. But as you said, it would be good to see him in the flesh. And I don't know, I just don't see them doing anything really this season. I think the Jets are probably better than them if the Jets can iron out their creases, but we'll have to wait and see.
I think a funny storyline is that when he was holding out, I think it was for the Vikings because he wanted to play with Kevin O'Connell
Yeah,
and he wanted to play in a dome. So I think he thought that was an ideal situation for him. Now maybe Kevin O'Connell is regretting that because JJ doesn't look great. He seems to be injured. I don't know if he's actually injured or they're just kind of putting him on the back burner. And now
pulling him
Wentz
out of the
is the
fire.
starter.
Yeah,
I think he'd still prefer Rodgers than Wentz, but look, Wentz did the job. Outside of all that, I think the actual fact of having the game here is going to be unbelievable. Croke Park is going to be full. I think 6,000 less than the full attendance because of the seats in the hill. So it's like
yeah.
76,000 capacity. Just going to be unreal. There's so much stuff going on over the weekend. So keep an eye on our Instagram because I'm living close by. I'm going to attend a lot of the stuff over the next couple of days and get some stuff up there for you. So hope to see some of you there as well. Let us know if you are going. But let's leave that. Next week we'll come back to it and chat about how the whole thing went. Okay, let's get into looking at the Premier League, some football side of things. So we wanted to touch on, obviously we've been doing the best performance of the weekend. We'll get on to that in a sec, but first something we wanted to touch on that seems to be prevalent and kind of not something you want to see, but
Annoying.
there's a lot of negative tactics in the Premier League, and we're seeing it from a number of teams and a number of teams that are actually quite good. So who do you want to start with talking about out of these?
I think we have to start with Arsenal, and then I think we should leave Chelsea at the end. So go Arsenal, Newcastle, Chelsea in that order. I think because what Arsenal did against Man City is just criminal. Like
Mhm.
th- there was something that I saw after, and I had to look it up because I couldn't believe the stat. Between the two teams, there was 10 centre backs used in that game of football in 90 minutes. They both like you start with two centre backs normally. They used 10 centre backs in that game over the 90 minutes. That
That's
is
crazy.
mental. Arsenal got back to 1-1, brought on Mascara instead of going for it. Like just yeah, we have the 1-1 draw. Let's sit in and just take this now. I don't get him. I don't understand him. Arteta makes no sense to me. He never has. I don't know if he ever will. I think he is probably a good coach because you don't keep leading a team to second in the league if you're not a good coach. But if he doesn't step out of his comfort zone, they're never winning anything big with him. I just don't see how they do it.
No, I think if he keeps doing this, it's like teams that don't take risks, they don't get their reward. And
Mm.
I just want to look at some. I just want to say something here, like, right? So let's look at the lineup just very quickly. We had Raya,
Yeah,
Timber, Saliba,
centre
Gabriel,
back, centre back,
yeah,
centre back,
Calafiori. And then the
centre
midfield
back.
was three defensive midfielders, Marino, Zubimendi, and Rice. And then you had
Yeah,
your three forwards, okay? Right, that's against City at home in the Premier League where you want to take it to them and win. Let's look at how they lined up against Port Vale last night in the cup
I
or
knew
two
you were
nights
gonna
ago.
go. I knew you were gonna do this.
We've got Kepa, Lewis Skelly, who's an attack-minded fullback. Two centre backs then, Mascara and Saliba, fine. Ben White, centre back, okay. Midfield, Ethan Nwaneri, Christian Norgard, Eberiche Eze. Three attacking-minded midfielders. Saka, and then Marino up top, which, okay, let's allow Arteta to do what he does, and Martinelli. Now, you're not going to play the exact same situation like that, you would in a big game. You're not gonna play that attacking of a midfield. But how Eze starting against Port Vale, and I don't care if it's like resting from the Champions League. Rest him against Port Vale. Why you're resting him against Man City? When he came on, he changed the game. They only needed one attacking player in that midfield to link defense to attack, and the whole thing changes. But they couldn't do it. And against Port Vale, they're going to put out that's just mind blowing for me.
Yeah, so when Eze came on at the weekend, as you said, he was the difference maker. But that was actually, it turns out it was actually an enforced change because Madueke was injured and they
Yeah,
wanted to bring someone on to link with Saka. So if Madueke could have gone out in the second half, Eze wouldn't have come on till the 60 or 65th minute. And his comments during the week, then we have the most attacking goalkeeper saying how Mikel Merino played as a nine last year. His centre
all the
backs are
attacking
attacking. I'm
players he
like,
mentioned were
I'm
defenders.
like,
So.
I was like, yeah, I was like, oh my god, I was like, what are you actually talking about? Like, he has so much talent there, and he just refuses to use it. And as you said, like it was basically seven defenders and three attackers at the weekend
Yeah,
against Man City, and then he had to change it, so he went to six defenders, Eze, and three attackers, and it made all the difference. Fair enough, they
it
absolutely
did. It
battered
changed
Man City
everything.
in that second half. There
Yeah.
were CEOs texting him and everything like they were so impressed at how they did in the second half. I
Oh
can't
my
take them.
god.
Oh, I
Yeah, it's
just like
just some of the stuff is
they are
so
not.
funny. Like,
Yeah, they won't be a problem for Liverpool this season if they keep doing what they're doing.
yeah,
Um, I want to touch on Gyökeres again. I think when Havertz come back, I don't think he's going to be their starting striker. I think he'll end up being a flat track bully, which is fine. You need those as well, but they play him against the likes of Burnley, the likes of Leeds, where he got his
it's
two
the only
goals.
time when he'll score.
Yeah, but like, he won't be starting when Liverpool come to the Emirates or Chelsea go to the Emirates or they go to the the Etihad. Like he won't start those games if Havertz is back. He'll start with Havertz
Yeah,
instead of playing a striker. He'll go with another midfielder. But he hasn't been very good in the three games against big teams.
yeah. That's the
Gyökeres at
exact
all. He
thing I
wasn't good
said
against
before the
Liverpool.
season started. That's what was going to happen, and it has happened because that's the sample. That's what's always happened with him. So it's hard to understand how it would change in the Premier League versus the Portuguese league,
Yeah,
so, especially against in
mental.
a negative team. So. Yeah, that's difficult, but a very similar situation is with Newcastle. Now, what they're doing is doing this away from home. They're playing very defensive teams because last year they were very poor away from home. But if they continue to play this negatively away from home and not take risks, they're not going to get nil-nil draws in every game. And they're not going to get anywhere near the top four because that's just not how it works. You can't just keep settling for nil-nil draws because you're not going to win. One, you're not going to win every game at home. And two, you're not going to get away with this every game. So a very similar segment I want to do here. Let's look at their team versus Bournemouth on the weekend. We've got Nick Pope, a five at the back with Lewis Hall, Dan Burn, Sven Botman, Malik Chow, and Tino Livramento. Then two defensive midfielders in Miley and Tonali. And then we've got Jacob Murphy, Willock, and Voltamada as your front three. Now let's look how they lined up against Bradford in the Cup last night. Ramsdale, Emil Kraft, Chow, Botman, Hall, back four. Bring back in Bruno Guimaraes, bring back in Joe Linton, because of course, you need them against Bradford. Bradford are a big team. You
And
don't want
yeah,
to mess around too much against them. You still have Miley. Bring back in Alanga, and then start a striker in Osula and bring back in Anthony Gordon. Of course, it makes perfect sense that you would save Joe Linton, Guimaraes, Alanga, and Gordon for the game against Bradford. Like that's normal. I would think, yeah, definitely what you need to do there. This stuff just
Mm.
infuriates me. It makes no sense whatsoever.
Like, I understand he wanted to make changes after the Champions League game, 7 he made for the Bournemouth game. But again, like we said about resting Eze for the Man City game, rest
Rest
these
them in
lads
this one.
against Port Vale. Yeah, rest these lads against Bradford, sorry. Don't rest them in the next league game. But you've just been beaten by Barcelona. Two really good goals from Rashford is what did you in the end. You need to just put them back out to say, okay, lads, we go again. We're away to Bournemouth. We need this is the kind of game we need to win. You don't make 7 changes, change the whole system. Like, I know Anthony Gordon was suspended. That's fair enough. He'll be back in this weekend. Do you want to have a guess at the XG that they created at the weekend against Bournemouth? If you
What
don't know
I'd
it,
say 0.43.
0.14.
God, so bad.
0.14 XG. They literally went out there and said, we have nil all. Let's that be the worst result we get. Like, they didn't go out to win that game. They went out there to get a nil all, settled in for nil all, and just they got what they wanted. And how you can be happy with that as a coach, as a fan, as a player, as anything is beyond me. I
Doesn't
like
make
you,
any
I'm
sense.
infuriated by what I saw as well. It just doesn't
Yeah,
make any sense. Nothing that I like. Arsenal made no sense. Newcastle made no sense at the weekend. And now the two of them are playing each other in a game where there'll probably be 10 centre backs starting with the way things are going. Like, so,
yeah. Well,
they're just too.
I the thing is with Newcastle, then okay, yeah, my mistake about Gordon. Yeah, you mentioned he was suspended, but the rest of them, they arrested them. But the thing about Newcastle is when they're playing at home against Arsenal or playing at home in general, they go attacking. So it's like they
Yeah.
can go the other way. Whereas Arsenal, they always do this. You're expecting it. But then that comes to the point. Let's just talk about the game now, the Arsenal Newcastle game on the weekend, and we'll come back to Chelsea. It's hard
Mm.
to see either team going for this too hard. Now, Newcastle have gone harder at home, as I mentioned, but against a team like Arsenal, who is going to set up defensively, you would think you'd go after it. But I think Newcastle might get sucked into playing Arsenal's game, and I don't know. I don't know what way it's going to go, but I could see a very similar script to the Man City game where maybe Newcastle do start off attacking at first. Arsenal are defensive. Newcastle get the goal. Arsenal switch it at half time and then Newcastle retreat a lot and are happy to hold on to 1-0 and it ends up being 1-1. And that's actually my prediction. I think that is maybe what will happen and it will be a 1-1. But I find it hard to look forward to this game after seeing what these two teams did last weekend.
Yeah. So my prediction was actually 1-1 as well. I think Newcastle would need to come out of the blocks the way they did against Liverpool. They
Hmm.
absolutely battered Liverpool for the first 40 minutes up until the Anthony Gordon red cards. Newcastle should have had that game won by half time, really, with the way things are going. And they got sucker punched. I think
Hmm.
they need to make sure they take the chance to get against Arsenal to get 1-0 up
Yeah.
and then put everything on Arsenal to turn it around. Say, okay, you've started with your 4 centre backs, your 3 defence midfielders, go and waste another 2 substitutes at half time, bring on attacking players and see what you can do. I think Newcastle are okay defensively, but I don't see them being able to hold out. There'll be a goal from a corner or someone's going to score a worldie that's not called Victor Gyökeres because he's going to spend the whole game on the fringe of this again. He's not going to be able to get into this one again.
Yeah.
I think he has to go Gordon, Baltamata, and Elanga now that Gordon is back, and
Yeah,
have the two
definitely.
lads running at the fullbacks and just keep pushing them back.
Hmm.
Keep pushing them back. So they push back that really attacking centre back, Durian Timber. Just make sure it's a back 4 and not a back 2. Don't give them any space, and just if Newcastle can play them at their own game, they can definitely get something positive out of this.
Yeah, I think Newcastle have the ability to win it. I just hope that they actually go for it and go for it until, take a lead into the 80th minute and then sit back. Okay, that's fine. But you could see even what they did to Liverpool when they had 10 men, like they were exceptional. They have it in them.
Yeah,
Whereas I don't think
yeah,
Arsenal have it
absolutely.
in them. So that's kind of the difference here. But just rolling back then to Chelsea, what was going on there with those subs, Maresca? So I'll just tee it up. Red card to Robert Sanchez for it could have been 2 red cards to be honest. Studs on the knee and also taking out the
Yeah,
last man. I don't know how there was an argument about that online, but anyway. And after the red card, Jorgensen comes on for Estevao. Obviously, you have to do that. You have to bring on a keeper, but then brings on Tosin for Neto. So you're taking off another attacking player to bring on another defender when you already had your full complement of defenders. Then you go 1-0 down, and Palmer comes off because he wasn't 100%. He shouldn't be starting if he's not 100%. And Andre Santos comes on. It looked like Maresca was trying to make himself look like a genius, and he ended up looking absolutely ridiculous on the sideline with the things he was doing.
I think it might be the worst managerial performance I've ever seen. What he did is mental, absolutely mental. Fair enough, you take off Estevao. That's grand. He's probably the most dispensable player that was there. So he's the young fella on the pitch. But if Palmer isn't fully fit, then take off Palmer at that moment to bring
Yeah,
on
exactly.
your goalkeeper. Like if Joe, if you're like, okay, he's not fully fit, but we still want people that can run at the defense and push him back. United aren't exactly brimming with confidence at the moment. So
Yeah.
like you do need to keep the lads up there to just keep running at the back three and cause issues. Like that was after 7 minutes, he took off his two wide men. Then after 20 minutes, he takes off Palmer. Like I don't understand why you didn't try and go with like a 4-2-1-2 and put Neto and João Pedro up front, Palmer in behind them. The two you had in midfield already, I think it was Caicedo and Enzo, and then your back four. And if that doesn't work after 20 minutes, then say, okay, I need to bring on a centre back here. Like why he went straight to panic mode, took out the fire extinguisher and just took off all the attacking players and just left Joe Pedro standing up there. And it was a horrible night to be up there on your own as well. The weather
Yeah,
was
exactly.
absolutely horrific. Can you imagine how Joe Pedro felt standing up there, no ball coming near him? And then, like it, especially when Casemiro went and did the decent thing and got himself sent off because United were so dominant and he had to make it a
Of
game.
course, have to make it
Like
hard.
his subs had already put him in such a difficult position. There was nothing he
Yeah,
could do. He had already wasted three subs, but wasted two, had to use one. He wasn't going to make another two subs and have nothing for the second half. So he had to try
yeah.
and go with this. Oh, Reece James can push up into midfield, and Cucurella was basically a left winger and just play with a literal three at the back. But he did himself no favors, and that's why I think it was the worst managerial performance I've ever seen. The panic that set in on him at the weekend was it needs to be studied. Like,
I don't
how do you go
know.
from this is the team I'm going with. We're starting with this. This is great. This team that'll beat United. Oh, we're down to 10. Let's just rip up everything I spoke about for the last 2 days and go with something we haven't used this
Yeah.
season.
What's going through his head is what I would like to know because you can't explain that kind of head loss. And like you said, they'd used the subs, so I think they had to wait till between
Half
60 and
time.
70 minutes to make their other two subs. They brought on an attacking player for, I think, I can't remember who they took off. Maybe Gusto, or did Gusto come on? And they brought on another
Gusto came on.
attacking minded. Yeah, they brought on another attacking minded player then for a defensive player late on. But like they didn't create anything. The only chance they had, they scored it. United just defended. They were quite easily and happily able to defend. So yeah, I agree with you. It was absolutely crazy. But do you have anything else on that Chelsea performance, or we will move on to the positives of the weekend?
I could probably write a thesis on the Chelsea performance, but we'll move on to the positive performance of the weekend. I think we've said enough on negativity now, so let's get on to something positive.
Yeah, so we've already previewed Arsenal and Newcastle for next weekend. Let's take a step back to last weekend. I think we both agreed that there was a very low number of actual like positive performances
But
and
yeah,
standout performances, but both Spurs and Brighton both impressed both of us a lot. So we wanted to shout out that game in general. It was 2-2 final score. I think it was fair enough. Maybe Spurs were slightly the better in control of the game, but both teams were very good. And what did you make of it?
yeah. So I thought it was a game of two halves again. So Brighton had the absolute best of it in the first half. They pinned Spurs back, went 2-0 up, and then Spurs came out in the second half, and it was like he changed all 11 players, and two of us came to life. Spurs came to life. They probably could very well have won it. When it got back to 2-2, they were looking the more likely. I just think what Thomas Frank is doing with Spurs, he's making him look really, really interesting.
Mhm.
Um, I think he has him rolling. I think they're a real, real European threat this season. In both the Champions League, I think they can go far in the Champions League with the way he plays. I think they'll be pushing really, really deep for the top four as well, top five maybe. So I can't believe it's like night and day from what we saw under your favorite manager last season compared to what they're doing this season.
Yeah, who's done exactly how I expected him to do so far at Forest, and
Mm.
that will continue into the future. But yeah, it is night and day. But they also have utilized the squad that they have well, and they've added to it in the right places. They've got European experience, a bit of flair. Xavi Simons only came on like for what did he come on in that game for? I don't know how long,
Yeah, he
but
came on and stuff. Yeah,
yeah, he looked quite dangerous when he did come on, and now there was a gilt edged chance that Bergval stepped over that he should have kind of at least put on target, but he had another nice long range shot. I think Bergval looked brilliant. He was really impressive. He's going to stand out for them for a long number of years, I think, if they hold on to
yeah.
him. But
I
in
particularly
general,
liked him trying to cheat at the corner when he ran around at the back
oh
post and tried to come out at the front post. Was
yeah.
absolutely brilliant. But
Little things like that, you remember those things about players as well. Like it's
yeah,
not really anything amazing, but these little things you're just like things that stick in your head. And they had 64% possession. It suited Brighton because they were 2-0 up, of course. But
mm,
Spurs did well with their possession. It seems like they're kind of comfortable passing around and holding on to the ball and then attacking when they need to and penetrating when they see a chance. So that's something that we haven't seen from them before. We also haven't seen them really much ever being a team that comes back from 2-0 down and shows the guts and guile to be patient and take their chances. And I know the second goal was an own goal, but they deserved it. And they still could have went on and won it in the end. But I do think both teams deserve something. I really like Brighton too. Very solid young team. Although they only have one win, two draws from the first 5 games, they will pick up a lot of points this season. I think
yeah,
they just need to be more consistent. But a lot of the young guys they have there, beautiful goals from both Minta, very calm, took it past the keeper, nice counter attack, and then Iari's goal was lethal.
mm,
So I think they have a lot of good talent going forward all over the pitch, and they'll be perfectly fine. And they have a new looks like a new Enciso regen that played there in the week, scoring 4 goals in their
yeah.
Carabao Cup game. And
Gomez.
Gomez, unbelievable! Like, and one of his
His
goals, I
second and
thought
third
was
goals.
crazy.
It's absolutely ridiculous. The third goal in particular, the one and a half volley
Hmm.
from my back garden
Yeah,
was absolutely outrageous. Like, and it's one
confidence
of
though.
those where he doesn't hit that if he hasn't scored the first, but he also doesn't score the second if he hasn't scored the first. So it's a build up of confidence. The first one was a tap in, second one a screamer, the third one out of this world, and then the fourth one a bit of a tap in as well. It was just one of those games where everything
Hmm.
falls for you. I just want to go back for a bit there for a second, just talk about the wingers that were in that game. So Kudos, Minte, and Mitoma. They're all a joy to watch. They're
Yeah,
so good to watch. Everything they do has a purpose to it. Kudos taking people down the right, down the wing, sorry, down the line on to his right foot, and still Joe not being afraid to use it. Whereas a lot of players try and cut back in onto their strong foot and just like ruin all the momentum. He's been some signing for Spurs at 55 million. I think you tweeted
yeah,
about it during the week as well, how good he's been. Minte looks like a real problem for Newcastle. The fact that they sold him as the one of the PSR fellas. They should have been holding on to him with both their hands and locking the doors to keep him as well, because he looks really, really good and he's only going to get better as well. And then we all know about Matoma, he's been doing it for years now, but the fact that he did a thesis in dribbling and
yeah.
you
I
can
was going to
see it
bring that
because
up.
he's so good at it. Like he's so good when he has the ball at his feet. Like he doesn't waste many opportunities to run with it. And he always either finds a pass or picks out a good cross, even if there's no one there, and his stats won't always look great. But I think he's great. I think if he was 2 years younger, one of the big teams would have been from by stage. He'd be playing in a Champions League, consistent Champions League team if he wasn't already 28.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think he clearly practices what he preached in that thesis. He knows exactly
Mm.
everything he needs to know about dribbling. And Minta, yeah, with the pace, I think it's just a nice compliment between the two of them. It works perfectly. But yeah, Kudos has stood out to me. I think it's the best signing of the summer so far, and I think he
Yeah,
will continue to
absolutely.
be that good. But yeah, let's move on then to Gan Chance. Now, last week, no good. Neither of us had any points. It's still 1-0 to me after 2 weeks. So we really need to pick this up. But I think I was really annoyed because I had the Rams. Did you have
Yeah.
the Rams too?
I hate the Rams as well, yeah.
And like, come on, like they two blocked field goals. If they kick either of those, they win it. That was
Yeah.
infuriating. And then the Texans literally had it on a plate against the Jags, and they somehow managed to throw that away. So yeah, like for
Yeah, I had the
certain.
Broncos as well. I had the
Oh, that was
Broncos at the
close. Yeah.
Chargers. I can't remember. Yeah, another close, and then Brentford were just annihilated by Fulham.
Yeah, and actually
So
Brentford,
yeah,
they could have been okay in that game if Nathan Collins didn't want to literally hand the game to Fulham. He's taken his Irish form back to the Premier League. He
yeah, I
gave
was
away
just going to
both of
say
the second goals.
he must have thought he was wearing green again because he
Yeah,
was. Yeah, he had a particularly poor game, but
yeah,
onwards and
definitely.
upwards. I have to get a 3 pointer eventually, and I need it to be this weekend.
Okay, you go first, so give us your picks.
And I have Brighton 3-1 against Chelsea. After Maresca losing his head last week, I think he mightn't have it fully back. So
Hmm.
I'm going to back Brighton, and the confidence they have after the last two games, well, I'd say they're going to be absolutely come out flying. Gone for a sticky one, but I like the Panthers at 15-8 at the Patriots. So the Panthers absolutely destroyed the Atlanta Hawks at the weekend. Falcons,
Atlanta
not the Atlanta
Hawks.
Hawks, the Atlanta Falcons at the weekend. That must be, oh, that is a basketball team. Yeah, they destroyed the Falcons at the weekend. They looked really good. The Patriots don't look
Mhm.
really good. So about a
Mhm.
15-8, it's not a bad price at all. And the last one feels like a steal. The Chiefs are 6-5 at home to the Ravens.
Oh, yeah. I think.
So I was, yeah. So
Mhm.
I understand why the Ravens are favorites, but the Chiefs at Arrowhead is one of those games where anything can happen, and the Chiefs winning that would be a surprise to absolutely no one. So the fact that they weren't favorites for that game, it's like, yeah, I have to pull on that.
Yeah, I think it's always it's hard to go against the Chiefs at home. That's back to back now that they've been underdogs at home,
Mm,
and it hadn't happened for I think 10 years or more before that. So that's
wow.
interesting one to look to see. But I think, or maybe since 2017, maybe it was like 8 years. So now it's happened twice this season. Very strange. But I haven't gone with the Chiefs, but I've matched you in the other two. I think Brighton was the only pick in the Premier League, the only team that we're
Yeah,
going up against an odds-on favourite that actually I think have a good chance of winning. Chelsea were 3-4. I just think it's only because Brighton are away that the Chelsea are odds-on favourites. So I've also gone with Brighton Panthers as well. I've gone with against the Patriots. I don't like the Patriots at all. They're 20-49 or 2-5. So I think that's a very I like the Panthers last week. I like some of their defense has been doing. Tweeted about Ajiro Evero, their defensive coordinator. He's going to be a head coach next year. He's brilliant. Makes it gets a lot out of a little. And then third of all, I've gone with putting my money where my mouth is and going with the Jets to beat the Dolphins. Now I did mention earlier that I thought they could do it, and I think Dolphins are quite poor. I'm surprised that the Dolphins are 4-6 Monday Night Football, 12:15 a.m. We got the Jets at 5-4. So that's my third pick. Put the three of them together, it's 27-1. But yeah, I like the
yeah.
Jets in this one. I think they're
Mine's
gonna
26.5 to 1 as well.
nice. So we've got
So
some
yours is, yeah,
a little bit more out there because of the Jets pick. But anyway,
yeah,
I still like them to get to take down the Dolphins who have been woeful. So let's move on then to the NBA. Three more teams to preview. We've got a couple of big teams and one smaller team. That seems to be the kind of team because we are working through by division. I know the NBA doesn't really go by divisions, but there is divisions in the conferences, so we're just working it out
mm.
that way. Let's start with the Nuggets. Where do they need to improve most from last season?
Their turnovers. 13.5 average last season is mad for a team as good as they are. Especially in like late games, critical possessions, they seem to give up an awful lot of turnovers towards the end of games last year, so they really need to pull that back.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very high number. I didn't realize that they were that high. I'm actually just want to check like where they were in the league for that last year. Yeah, that's pretty poor. They're like you want to be they're kind of in the bottom third roughly around. So you kind of want to be
Yeah,
sorting that out if you want to challenge. Like you need to look after the
100%.
ball. But I said they need to shoot more threes. They they moved on their main 3 point shooter, I guess, in Michael Porter Jr. because he just wasn't doing it for them. They brought in a guy who I think is better at that, but also better at other things like defending in Cam Johnson. I thought that was a brilliant trade for them. They attempted the least threes in the league last year, 31.9 per game. So I think if they can attempt more threes, open the game up more, that'll allow Jokic more space to do even more damage than he's already done. So that was my choice there. Looking at an under the radar player that I like for the team, then I went with Bruce Brown. I think bringing him back in was incredibly smart. He's back with them. He was part of the championship winning team 2 years ago. He gave them 11.5 points per game off the bench that year with 4 boards and 3.5 assists. Since then, he's played for 3 teams across the last 2 seasons. He was moved around in a number of trades. I think they did a really good job of getting him back on a quite a low contract because obviously has bounced around. He hasn't settled anywhere. They knew they could get him
Mm.
at a low price, and he works great with Jokic, and he's quite good defensively too. So I think that was a good pick and someone who's going to help the team a lot.
Yeah, I like that one. You can call me out on this one now if you want, but I went with Christian Braun.
Yeah, he's on the brink of it, but I'll allow the radar because a lot of people won't know
Yes.
who he is who are like not really in the
Yeah, so
league.
the reason I went with him is because last year was his first year as a starter. So it was his third year at Denver. His first two he started combined 10 games. Last year he became a real key piece of that starting five, starting 77 games,
Hmm.
33 minutes a game, 40% from three, um, 82% from free throws, and averaging 1.1 steals a game as well. So naturally all his stats came up last year. Everything came up. His field goal percentage came up to 58% as well from 46. So I just think it was clearly a really smart decision to bring him into the team. He did what he needed to do, 15 points a game as well, up from 7.3 the year before. I know now his minutes, it's nearly doubled his minutes, so obviously his points are going to double as well. But I just thought he had a really solid year from, and I think he's going to have another solid year from this year.
I think he's one of the young guys that they trusted that actually delivered for them. So I think they're
Yeah,
pretty happy about that because like Strouder really hasn't looked up to standard, and you've got someone in Brown or Braun there like that looks the part and looks like a key part of their team that they wouldn't even consider giving away. So yeah, I like that show.
yeah, you could tell as well. Because when he came into the playoffs, his minutes went up to 38.9 minutes per game, and he started all 14 in the playoffs. So they clearly trust him from the regular season to bring him into the postseason and to use him even more again. So yeah, I just think he's a really solid player.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. 53.5 wins then, 50 last year. What do you think? Can they hit it?
Over, yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're really good. When you have Jokic, you're going to win a lot of games that you probably shouldn't win because of the stuff he can do for you. So I think 53.5 is definitely doable for him. The line I found was 56.5, and I still had him over at that as well. So I was always
Oh,
going to be,
that's very
yeah,
high. Yeah, I think
yeah, massive.
I would find it hard to pick them at that one, but 53.5 I think is the like even line on sports books. So 50 last year, I think seen as a kind of a down year. I think they'll push very hard and they'll
Yeah.
probably get like 54, 55. So I think that they can definitely get it too. I agree with you. And then what's the ceiling with the current roster and coach for the season ahead?
Their ceiling is challenge for an NBA title. They can definitely win their conference, and then see where they go from there. I don't think they have enough to win it. You'll have to wait and see when we do eventually get around to our NBA prediction, whenever that comes around now. But their margin for error is so slim. I think they could just easily get to the finals. They could be knocked out in the first round. So I do think their ceiling is the finals, but I think their actual what they'll get might be a conference final at best.
I think they can win the whole thing. I really like the team. They still got Jokic there from obviously their previous championship winning team. They've also got Aaron Gordon and Murray. So that's a nice core. You've also got Brown there, as you've already talked about. And then adding Cam Johnson, adding Jonas Valanciunas, bringing back Brown, Bruce Brown that is, and then adding Tim Hardaway Jr., someone who can shoot threes as well. I think they're all helpful pieces, something that they didn't have last year. That's why Christian Braun or Brown had so many minutes in the playoffs last year
Yeah,
because they didn't really have anybody to rotate in. Now they actually have people they can rotate. I really like the team, and as I mentioned, I think in our NFL season preview, I've doubled them up with the Rams to win the Super Bowl. So just as kind of an outside pick, I think yeah, I actually really like how the Rams are playing so far too. So I like that. I'm still happy with that. But now that's kind of my outside pick. I'm not sure if I'll go with them to win the whole thing. As you said, we'll have to see in the season preview. But I think they're well capable.
Rockets.
Yeah, we can see where you're going to go already. let's see how it goes with
No,
Fred Van Fleet. It's going to be tougher, but
yeah, things change, and that happened to Fred Van Fleet. I had to rip up all my notes and start again, unfortunately. But we'll
yeah, I
get to
don't
them
think.
in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, we haven't done them yet, so that's going to be nice to. I'm glad we have that information before we touch on them because it does change
Yeah,
things. So
100%.
moving on to the Jazz, then complete opposite end of the spectrum, where they need to improve most from last year. I would be surprised if you had anything other than this. I have the worst defense in the league last year. They
Mm.
averaged 221.2 points per game allowed. How are you supposed to win when allowing that many points per game?
It's mental. I knew they were bad. I didn't think they were the worst in the league first. Like you said, you're basically going in to every single game with your hands tied behind your backs, and you're playing basketball. You can't really throw the ball and your hands behind your backs. But needing to put up 130 every game, like you can't have any down days. And they had many down days last year. So that is definitely something that needs to be picked up.
Yeah, and then looking at how many points they actually scored per game last year, they weren't the least in the league, but they were down there and it was 111. So like you're losing games by
Yeah.
like 10 points like pretty
Double
much every
figures every
time.
time. Yeah.
Like, there's no team that can go out there and go, right, we need to score 130 every week. Like the most
Yeah.
any team averaged was the Cavs and that was 122. So you're literally just ruling yourself out straight away from the start of the season.
Yeah.
One
Which is
player
mad.
under the radar then that you like for the team.
Kyle Filipowski. 72 games last year, 27 started. I just really like saying his name. He's young, but he has plenty of potential. He's tall, strong, he's mobile, he can shoot. His free throws were 65%, not great, but his field goals were just over 50. And in a team that's not very good, that's not to be sniffed at. 21 minutes a game last year. I think he will kick on again this year.
Yeah, have you seen the kind of thing in his personal life last year before when he went into the draft? Yeah, if any
No?
of you haven't seen that, just give that a look and give it a read and a laugh. Yeah,
Oh,
I won't go into
class.
it, but anyway, yeah, he's I actually like him as well. He's a good player, but I was thinking maybe I was going to pick him too, but I went with Walter Clayton Jr. Now they picked him up in the first round this year, 18th overall pick. They picked him. Ace Bailey obviously as their first choice in the draft, but they got him later on. He won the NCAA championship last year. He was picked as the Final Four most outstanding player, and he made the consensus first team All American team amongst many other awards that he got last year. He's an experienced player. He played in college for literally 4 years, the full whack. A lot of players come out after 1 or 2, but 4 years, and then in his final year, he gave 4 assists per game and 18 points per game, obviously leading the Gators to the national championship. So I
Mm.
think that was a steal. I think he'll be very good for them. I think we'll see him in the league for a long time to come. Funnily, I wanted to point out that when we did the Celtics, it was the very first week we did this, and I picked George Niang as their under the radar player, and now he plays for the Jazz because they traded him there literally like a week or two after. So
I
that was
honestly thought you were going to go for him again as a kind of a throwback to what you did in week one. But
yeah, I was
yeah,
gonna, but then I was like, no, he doesn't work for this team the way he does for the
It,
Celtics.
it, it
But
yeah, it really is the look of the who's got the ball pod. It's no matter what we say, it just seems to go mad. It's madly wrong whatever we say. Like what's Chelsea come out this weekend and start 10 strikers instead of bringing in defenders and beating Brighton 8-0 because we both backed Brighton to beat them. Like it's just the look
I
we
know.
have is insane.
Yeah, it has to turn. It's going to turn someday, and it's going to turn with this Utah Jazz team. Filipowski and Clayton just lobs going up there, slamming them down.
Yeah.
Um, I can definitely not see that happening. But do you think they'll hit their over under wins? It's 18.5 is what the book had.
I think they'll be under because I think they're still going to try and tank again. They're still rebuilding. They're just not very good. If they're going to be conceding as many points as the Cavs are scoring, they're not going to win many games. So I just thought the under was the safer bet here.
Yeah, they had 17 wins last year, so they went under. I'm just going to go with over, not because they're good, but just because only two teams hit under that mark last year, and that was the Wizards and the Jazz. So it's not correlated to their skill. It's just unlikely that they go under twice in a row. I think they'd probably just get around like 19 or 20 and just miss out. So I'm just going to
Yeah,
hit the under the over because it's probably too low of a line. It's the lowest in the league as well. There's no team has a lower
yeah.
line than that. Um, then looking at their ceiling, I said outside of Markkinen at a veteran level, their team is woeful. They have some good young pieces, but actually that can contribute on a weekly basis. They have no real veterans. So I think they can't get more than maybe 26, 27 wins if things go right, and that's still a really bad team. So that's what I've gone with.
Yeah, I just said that like there actually is no ceiling here because they're just so bad. I couldn't even put a win total on them, so I'll just go with what you said and think 20ish is probably the best they can do. I like I was trying to look something up and they're like, oh, realistically, they can get to 35 wins. I was like, on what planet? Like, is every
Yeah,
other team leaving the league for them to get to 35 wins? Like, so I was just like, don't know where to go from here. So yeah, I like your call on that. I think 20 wins is, if they get to 20 or 25 wins, I think they'll be very, very happy with that. And it's something to build on.
yeah. They just get the young guys involved and decide what they're going to do with marketing in the long run
Yeah.
is kind of key for them this year. The Clippers then are next. I'm going to go first on where they need to improve most from last season because I've not really given an answer here. It's basically a non-answer, but it's surrounding this whole Kawhi Leonard situation. So basically, if you don't know, it seems like Leonard. Well, it doesn't seem like it definitely happened that he received a lot of payments, close to 10 million per season from this company called Aspiration, who are supposedly supposed to like plant trees for helping the environment. There was never a tree planted, I can tell you that. And yeah, this situation is kind of unraveling. It's given NBA fans something to get through in the off season. But my answer to the question is if they can come out of this as unscathed as possible, that is a win. Because we've seen things happen now. It wasn't when Adam Silver was the commissioner, so maybe he's a little bit softer. But when Howard Stern was there, like he did some mad things to teams that were breaking the rules, and they could lose first round picks here. They might terminate Kawhi's contract. If they manage to hold on to him and they don't receive a massive blow to their future that kind of gets everybody in the organization down about things, then this is going to
Mm.
be a key to going forward into this season.
Yeah. So I've actually gone with the same kind of thing as you. I said where they need to improve is to keep Kawhi on the course, but will they have him to keep him on the court in the first place was the big question for me. Like his health last year and Harden's as well is going to be key to their future. And this stuff that's going on with Aspire is, oh, I don't
It's
want to say it's
crazy.
criminal because it might actually be. So, and I use that word as kind of
A
just
descriptive
something
word.
that's a bit mad. Like, but I just, oh, it's crazy, absolutely crazy that they thought they could get away with this. They were always going to get caught. I think they got away with it for long enough. They probably should have packed it in after 3 years and said, okay, let's kind of let's leave it there before someone gets suspicious of it. But they kept going until they got caught, and yeah, it's a massive variable for him for their whole season if he's missing
Yeah, I
or
we
gone.
we're on the same track there. I think in the long run, Kawhi getting cut might save them a lot of money in what they had to pay him, and they might maneuver things and it might work out. But it's not going to help them this season, which is what the point of this whole preview is here. So then, looking at one under the radar player that you like for the team, who did you go with for this?
Zubac. I know he is kind of well known. He's an anchor in the paint. He's steady. He's passing and everything. But when you have Kawhi and James Harden, it's hard to be a star. For one better way of putting it, like you're always going to be playing at best third fiddle. So I just thought he deserved a bit of a shout out. I just think he's a really, really good player. He's more than just a finisher for him.
Yeah, and statistically and also eye test wise, he's clearly the best defender in the league on Jokic. He's the only one that can actually slow him down to some degree, which matters a lot when you're in the West. So I think yeah, that is also something he deserves points for. I've also gone in a defensive way here. I've gone with Chris Dunn. He's an amazing defender. At 31 years of age, he'd probably be one of the youngest starters on the team, which is hilarious. But
Yeah,
he carries that defense along with Zubac. 1.7 steals per game last season. That was fourth overall in the league. He's had quite a journey of a career. In 2023, he won. He was on the G League All Defense team, so that was pretty mad. And then to step up to be an elite defender in the NBA 2 years later at 31 years of age is a testament to him. And he's very
mm,
important for everything they do with, balancing out the offense and basically the non defensive James Harden. It's very important. So he's a,
yeah.
he's a key part for them. 47 and a half wins then. That's the over under. They had 50 last year. I think their team is a bit old to reach this in a regular season, even with Kawhi being there, if he is there. Um, I just think they're not going to put too much emphasis on the regular season. They want to get into the postseason healthy, and around 45, 44 might be where they get to. Now, they did hit it over it last season, but I just don't think it's going to be as important to them as it is to some of the younger teams.
Yeah, so I went under as well, and I was kind of thinking along the lines of Kawhi's the way the way this preseason has gone for him, the kind of lack of clarity on what's going on. I think it's very hard just go into a season and just be all guns blazing. Then I always
Mm.
think what you said is very true, that they're not going to be putting the lads out there for massive minutes if they because they want to have them healthy for the postseason. So if they can just win, as you said, 44 or 45 games, they should get a playoff position, and then try and keep the older lads healthy then for that.
Yeah, no, definitely. We're on the same kind of line there. Then looking at the ceiling with the current roster and coach for this season ahead, now I follow that on from their team is old, but when you get to the playoffs, that actually benefits you because some of
It
them
helps them,
know
yeah.
what they want to do. And I think if they keep them healthy, they've got some good signings this offseason. I think they've done one of the best out of everybody. So if they keep Kawhi, keep the same unit, then I think they can get to the Western Conference Finals. I don't think they can win the West, but I think they can get to the finals with this team of their conference.
Same. Yeah, so I said a deep playoff run ending in the conference finals.
Yeah, I think it's there for them. It's in front of them. If they sort this Kawhi thing out, then they use the good side, the good talent. Like I think the bringing in Chris Paul back, he's going to be kind of like a kind of more of a locker room guy. I think that's going to be important to have him around back with the team he started out with. And then you also added Brook Lopez. He's 37 now, but he's still a very good player. And these kind of pieces they're helpful and they're team players that can get you far in the playoffs. So that's another week of NBA action wrapped up. So we've got one thing left to touch on our power rankings. I think I went. Did I go first last week? I think I did. And
No, I did because you gave out to me for not having the Eagles then, remember?
oh yeah, I did give out to you. So I'll go first this time. And then we'll go back to you and see if you've screwed your head on this week. But um, by the look on your face, you haven't, which is just ridiculous. Um, Right. Last week I had Liverpool, Eagles, Packers, Bills, Spurs, and Bournemouth. Couple of changes this week. My top two stay the same. Pool, Liverpool, top, because they've continued to do what they've done, and there's no reason to drop them. Eagles won a Super Bowl, won 3 games in a row this season so far. Can't be anywhere other than top two, despite what some people think. Third, then I've got the Chargers. Really impressive. Beating three divisional rivals is no mean feat. Like
Mean
it's
feast.
pretty tough
Yeah.
to do. I think the way that they beat the Broncos in a tough game and Herbert looked immense in that as well. So yeah, move them up. New entry, but they're in at third. The Bills stay at fourth. They won again, so I don't want to move them out, even though they weren't amazing against the Dolphins, but they got the job done. And then I've kept Spurs at five. They've continued to play well. They just didn't get a win. I think if they got a win, I'd move them up, but keep them where they are.
Mm.
And then in sixth place, I've dropped Bournemouth out. I know they did draw with Newcastle, but Palace got a win at the weekend. They won in the cup. They're still undefeated in all competitions so far. I think they deserve a place in this top six, so they're wrapping up my six.
So last week I had Liverpool, Chargers, Packers, Arsenal, Bills, and Man City. I have
Mm-hmm.
made a lot of changes this week because nobody in the Premier League is impressing me, and I didn't want to have Arsenal or Man City in there after what they showed at the weekend. So I've Liverpool at one, the Lions at two.
Ooh.
They're new for me. I love what they do on offense. Think they're absolutely brilliant. I tweeted during the week that I think their defense could be what's costing them because they just can't keep conceding as many points as they're doing, even if they are scoring points for fun. Third, I have screwed my head on. The Eagles are in there. They have won three in a row. Even if they were lucky last week with the blocked field goals, made it look like it was a far closer game than the scoreline looks because of that field goal at the end. So I have them at three. I have the Chargers at four. Again, as you said, the three divisional rivals. Don't know why I couldn't remember in my mind there. And then to top it off, I have Palace and Bournemouth. Palace are 17 games unbeaten now. They just look like they're having so much fun. And then Bournemouth are just really good to watch. They weren't at the weekend, but I think that was more Newcastle's doing than they're doing. So yeah,
Yeah.
Liverpool, Lions, Eagles, Chargers, Palace, Bournemouth.
No, I like it. I think the only I would have the Chargers remain high since you had them high, because I think they've continued to play well. But again,
Oh
I
yeah.
I like the shout of the Lions, and I'm not going to get too hard on you because you brought the Eagles back in after I shamed you last week. So let's take a win here. Let's take the win of seeing the Eagles back into this. But yeah, that's wrapping up another episode for you. Hope you enjoyed it, and all the good stuff, like, subscribe, all that jazz, and leave comments, anything you want to see in the future. Follow us on social media, and as I said earlier, keep an eye out. We'll have plenty of stuff surrounding the NFL game in Ireland. So nice one, lads, and we shall see you again next week.